I bought my farm for the quiet, for the wide open space where the only thing crossing my gravel drive was a deer or two. For a year, it was paradise, just me, the wind through the pines, and the rhythm of my own work. Then the folks from the neighborhood over the hill found the old dirt trail cutting through my land. It wasn't a road, just a maintenance path used once for utility work, but word got around. Soon, I was watching sedans, pickups, and even golf carts zipping through like they owned the place. The worst was Melissa, the HOA president, who'd tear across my field in her cherry-red Ferrari SUV, kicking up dust like she was in a rally race. One morning, I stepped out and waved her down. "This isn't a public road," I said, keeping my tone even. "You and your neighbors need to stop." She barely lowered her window, peering over designer shades. "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "We've been using this for months. Bit late to complain now, don't you think?" I held her gaze. "Not really." She smirked, revved her engine, and peeled out, spraying a cloud of dirt over my newly planted clover. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about a shortcut, it was about respect, and Melissa had none. At first, I tried playing nice. I put up "no trespassing" signs along the trail, bright and polite. Within days, 2 were toppled, and 1 was propping up a kid's dirt bike. I caught an HOA board member parked in my field, sipping a smoothie, and reminded him this was private property. He just chuckled. "It's just a shortcut, man. Relax." But it wasn't just a shortcut. Their tires carved ruts through my soil, spooked my goats, and turned my peaceful mornings into a parade of engines. My insurance agent warned me I could be liable if someone crashed on my land. That's when I realized nice didn't work with people who thought rules were for other folks. I needed to speak a language Melissa would understand: consequences. I started small. I parked an old trailer across the path, thinking a barrier might do the trick. Melissa drove straight through my orchard to get around it, crushing a sapling. I hung a plastic chain with red flags. It was cut and tossed into my irrigation ditch within 48 hours. I set up a motion-activated camera to catch license plates someone spray-painted the lens. I even tried fake construction cones, but Melissa took them as a dare, plowing through and flipping me off as she passed my new camera. Frustration turned to resolve. I called my insurance guy and asked, hypothetically, about digging a trench on my own land. "As long as it's clearly marked, not on an easement, and you're not hiding it, you're fine," he said. That was all I needed. I waited for a rainy weekend, when the ground would be soft and slick. Armed with a shovel and a plan, I dug a trench across the trail 3 feet deep, 5 feet wide, just enough to catch a low-clearance vehicle. I staked bright orange markers along the edges and planted a weatherproof sign: "Private property. Trespass at your own risk. Not a public road." For good measure, I draped a tarp over it, scattering straw to mask the depth without hiding the obstacle. It was no trap, just a clear boundary any sensible driver would stop for. I emailed the HOA a final warning, subject line: "Stop using my land." I laid out the damage, the liability, and the fact that the trail was now unsafe for vehicles. Melissa didn't reply, but the next day, fresh tire tracks scarred my muddy field. Fairness was out the window. This was about making a point. Tuesday afternoon, the sky was gray and heavy, the ground a perfect mess of mud. I sat on my porch with a thermos of coffee, ears tuned for the roar of Melissa's Ferrari. Sure enough, it came, that deep, arrogant growl echoing across my pasture. She crested the hill, tires slinging mud, driving like nothing could stop her. Then she hit the trench. The Ferrari's front end dropped hard, the nose slamming into the dirt. The back end bucked up, then crashed down with a sickening crunch. Steam hissed from under the hood. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Melissa kicked open the door, stepping into the mud in her pristine white boots. She circled the wreckage, screaming into her phone, her face a mix of fury and disbelief. I stayed on my porch, sipping my coffee, letting the scene unfold. The tow truck showed up 40 minutes later. The driver took one look and whistled. "This is gonna hurt," he muttered. As they winched the Ferrari out, the undercarriage scraped, the exhaust bent, and the suspension groaned. Melissa's screams grew louder. I didn't say a word, just raised my thermos in a quiet toast to boundaries. I braced for backlash. A lawsuit, maybe, or HOA lackeys with legal threats. Instead, a thick envelope arrived from the HOA, demanding I explain the obstruction on a historically used route. I sent back one line. This is private property, never an easement, and clearly marked as closed. I attached photos, boundary surveys, timestamps, my warning emails, and, for good measure, a shot of Melissa's Ferrari sunk in the ditch, with her climbing out, mud streaking her designer coat. That shut them up. By the next week, not a single car crossed my land. The shortcut was done. Melissa never drove through again. I'd see her on the long paved road around the hill, stuck in traffic like everyone else. Whispers around town said the Ferrari's repairs cost a fortune: suspension, underbody. The works in the dealership wouldn't touch it under warranty. Owner negligence, they called it. Melissa, who once strutted like she owned the county, now avoided my eyes at the feed store. She never apologized, never admitted she was wrong, but she didn't need to. The silence, the detour, the overgrown trail, that was enough. One evening, as I patched a fence, I saw her drive by on the paved road. She glanced at the old path, now choked with weeds, and sped off. The trench had done its job, better than any fence of wood or wire. Sometimes, the best way to stop someone is to let them run headlong into a lesson they can't ignore. Did Melissa get what she deserved? That's for you to decide.